All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Tortilla Talk, brought to you by Tech and Tortillas. I'm your host today, Dylan, and with me is Nick. Nick, how
What's
you doing?
up? Good.
And Troy. Troy, how you doing?
What's going on, boys? I'm doing great.
Awesome, that's good to hear. So what we're gonna do is kind of go through the big topics of the day and get everyone's thoughts on it and see where we stand. So I'm going to start with one of the two big games that happened on Sunday. Let's go with the Chiefs and Ravens. What a game! But I'll start with you, Nick. The Chiefs. I mean, some Mahomes magic there. What do you think about all that?
I mean, you saw one of our tweets, from yesterday, right? He's inevitable. Really reminds me of old Tom Brady, right? Even when the Patriots weren't at their best, they still, when the playoffs start, there's no betting against them. You just can't. So I thought it was pretty impressive. One of our guys, love to see it, but what are you going to do? Death taxes, Pat Mahomes.
Yeah, I mean, well said. It's almost like he is inevitable. Young in his career, and he's already doing exactly what he's doing. What about you, Troy? I know we're all tech guys. You give me something on Mahomes.
Yeah, I got to do my taxes, like Nick mentioned. But other than that, it truly was that. I mean, the way I kind of went to it thinking was one guy's been there a lot, and the other guy, I believe, has gone to an AFC championship game, but hasn't. Have they made a Super Bowl yet with Lamar? I don't think so. So it was just, bet on old reliable, take them, and let's go. And one thing I thought about the Ravens was, man, they were hyped up. They released some pretty cool videos. But at the same time, they may have been too hyped up. I mean, man, they made some bonehead plays. So poor Zay Flowers had to find out the hard way that taunting penalty, and karma came back real fast, right? It clapped back within a few plays. So, yeah, it was a great game.
Well, Troy, what's funny on that? I didn't realize it till I was watching the replay on that. The guy he was taunting was the one who made the play to force a fumble on him. I mean, that's karma right then and there. Zay Jones messed around and found out.
Yeah.
But, yeah, going on to that, Troy, I love how you said about hyped. I mean, think about it. Before the game, they had Ray Lewis, going crazy on the field, doing his thing. Then you had Suggs come out, I think what was like halftime or third quarter or something to get the team going.
Yeah, and they got an immediate stop after Suggs came out.
I know. But yeah, they went all in on that. But speaking of hype as well, at the beginning of the game, Tony Romo wouldn't let you forget that he believes the Ravens were the much better team. Troy, do you think the better team won that game?
It's tough to say. I mean, over the course of the season, the Ravens would have let you believe they were the much better team, right? They had those two dominant wins against Miami and San Francisco at the right time in the season. So, yeah, you probably would say they were the more dominant team. The Chiefs struggled all season. But Nick touched on it already, right? It's like the second iteration of the Patriots. Who cares about the regular season? Let's get to the playoffs. And, someone has a lot more experience than the other guy, and it showed, right? So I think that's all there is to it. Till up to half two.
Here's what I'll tell you. Big who cares?
I think they were juggernauts, right? Isn't that what everyone said?
Big who cares? Who cares? I mean, same thing. Oh, Patriots had an undefeated season. Did they win the Super Bowl? No. Who cares? All right. Kansas City won. I don't care what anyone says about the better team. If they were the better team, they should have won the football game, right? They didn't win the football game. So what are you going to do? It's nice, I mean, I'm not a big fan, but it's nice seeing Ray Lewis and Terrell Suggs out there. At the end of the day, can't figure it out. So it is what it is. Kansas City won again. They've done it every year until someone beats them. I don't want to hear it. I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care.
It's almost looking like the whole Brady, Belichick, Patriots in the standpoint of who cares about the regular season? I mean, they turn up they need to. They look ugly. Everyone says this, that. They're not whatever they used to be. And then playoffs come and look, they pull it off. It can be ugly, but they're going to win the game.
Yeah, go 10-7. As long as you get into the playoffs, then just go do your thing, right? That was like the Patriots, well, they would win a few more games, but I mean, that's, hey, playoffs, that's when you put your throttle down. Now, what scares me, is being a Patriots fan, being from New England. Yeah, I'm so torn because, I want Pat to win. I love the success for him and what he does for the university. Side note, for anyone that says like, oh, you Texas Tech people need to chill out, like just being all on Patrick Mahomes, blah, blah, blah. He loves Texas Tech just as much as we love him. So it's a mutual love. So everyone needs to chill out and just be excited that, our guy's doing big things. I cheer for the Patriots, right? But I can like Kansas City because of Pat. And if Pat leaves and goes somewhere else, I'm gonna go like a different team, right? But get off this whole you're not allowed to cheer for your college player. He's the greatest football player to ever go through Texas Tech and maybe in the NFL. So yeah, we're gonna enjoy him while he's there because he's Pat, right? He cheers for us. He cheers for Tex. We can cheer for him. I'm off my soapbox.
Definitely a great brand ambassador. We can say that. Done a lot for the university, even in
he got us the Adidas deal.
Exactly. So it's definitely been.
So, and if I'm not wrong, Kansas City, and I'm off my rant after this. We can go to the next game. Kansas City has a partnership with Texas Tech, do they not? Isn't there Texas Tech branding around the stadium?
There was at one point. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So I'm done. Anyone on X or anywhere else that's like, you Texas Tech people, shut up. You're done. You're out. I don't want to hear it.
All right.
We can move on.
Last thing on that real quick, Troy, just give me a few seconds on this. There was a hilarious clip of Rex Ryan freaking out about the Ravens throwing their game plan out the window. Regular season, one of the most dominant run teams, right? And they turned Lamar into a drop back passer. What do you think about that? Is that kind of crazy not sticking to your guns in the playoffs, or you think they saw something they liked, or what?
I mean, it's tough to say. I feel like the Chiefs have played, decent defense, and maybe that's what they were worried about. I know they have some pretty good guys in the interior line. So I don't know what they were thinking. I think they only had, Lamar Jackson was their second leading receiver in the first half. So at some point you got to, get back to the basics and run the ball. And they have, pretty dynamic guys that can do that for you. So it's easy to say with the results that, come on, run the ball. But I mean, it is what it is. They got down. They weren't out by any means. And so it just didn't work out for them. I did like the touch of irony, though, of to seal the deal, a Kansas City Chiefs receiver catching a 30-yard pass. You don't see that to ice the game.
I thought the same thing, falling back on his butt. I thought that was like you said, Troy, a touch of irony. That was nice.
Yeah.
Very good. Classy. Here's the thing, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kansas City's pass defense not the best.
I mean, their defense overall is looking really good when it needs to.
Yeah, their defense is, but Troy said it. Their interior line though is pretty strong. Mm-hmm. But here's the thing: Zay Flowers scores that touchdown, we might be talking about a whole different tune, right? So you pop the ball out at the half-yard line. If that didn't happen, maybe Baltimore goes on and wins. And then it was a genius decision to not do it, So whatever. Again, whatever. We make decisions. They were never out of the game. And again, they were a half-yard line fumble away from, maybe the game going a different way. So it is what it is.
Chiefs had defensive average yards were second in the league. Ravens were sixth. So really two good defenses. I will say I was a little disappointed. I thought the over was going to hit and 3 points in the second half. So there's that.
Dylan, here's the thing. What did Rex Ryan ever do?
No, he loves feet.
Right. So that's probably why he likes to run the ball.
Yeah, just wanted to see some feet moving. But we'll move on. So from one team that maybe didn't stick to their guns to a team that definitely stuck to their guns, we got the Lions 49ers. I'll go ahead and I'll start with you, Nick. Dan Campbell stuck to his guns. He was aggressive. Did it cost him?
Good. No. Well, I mean, they lost, right? But here's the thing. I mean, and you know what? Maybe this goes back to the Ravens. Maybe I disagree with myself now, right? I'm sound like, maybe I should shut up. They did what they've done, right? That's him. And you know what? He did what he thought he needed to do to win the game, and he likes to roll the dice. And so now, if he didn't, and they still lost, right now we'd be hammering him for being too conservative. So, we talk about the better team and all that stuff, right? San Francisco's the better team, right? On paper, and they won. But what got Detroit to this point was by being Detroit and rolling the dice and going for it. And you know what? If they got if they got the 2 yards on 4th and 2 earlier in the game, maybe it would have iced it, right? But it didn't work out that way. That San Francisco just was too much at the end of the game. But I guarantee if the same thing happened, except he was being conservative and kicked a field goal or didn't go for it, then we'd be saying, well, why did he change who he was? So I like it. You got to do what you got to do. Sorry it didn't pay off this one time, but you know what? If he was conservative throughout the season, maybe they wouldn't have even been in the playoffs. So,
yeah, Troy, what do you think? You like the calls going for it and all that?
I think Nick touched on it really well. I personally didn't like the calls. It felt like when the second half started after that first touchdown, you could feel it. And I don't know. There's a saying with Uncle Mo, and you can kind of tell when it shifts, right? And so when the momentum shifts, do you change? To Nick's point, now Dan Campbell didn't do it all season, so why now? And I don't know if that.
Yeah, but you know what, Troy? Can I say one thing? I'll tell you one thing. Because I was in Vegas this weekend, boots on the ground. What I'll tell you is, I felt Uncle Mo changing on the blackjack table, and I didn't change my strategy either, and it did not pay off either. So I'll tell you what, maybe me and Dan Campbell need to rethink our strategy because it was a bloodbath on Sunday.
You gotta hate that when that happens, and I'm sorry that happened to you.
Troy, the dealer kept. There was even a point where the dealer said to me, and I know I'm getting off topic. The dealer says to me, "You're gonna hit," and I looked at him. And I said, "Look, man, when the table's cold, sometimes the table's cold." And he looked at me and he goes, "I know." And what did I do? I kept playing anyway. So maybe Dan Campbell and I need to go take a lesson from Uncle Mo.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good call. But stick to your guns, like you said. So that's good. It just felt like a Texas Tech game where we could be up 2 scores, and maybe even in the Patrick Mahomes era, right? It was just, you knew that game wasn't going to slip through your fingers eventually, and as soon as that first touchdown was scored, it felt like that. So,
Troy, like taking a 24-7 lead into the halftime, I mean, surely you can't blow that in a playoff game, right?
Oh no, they did. Yeah,
yeah, they did.
It's crazy. We all wanted to see the Lions succeed too. Bunch of nobodies. They told themselves that story, man, and they almost pulled it off. But yeah, to your point, Uncle Mo turned its head in a real ugly way. But I'll go back to you, Troy. Something that I can't wrap my head around, and I keep trying to tell myself it's gonna rear its head at some point. Purdy, he's not real, right? Like how? I mean, this is gonna fall apart at some point.
It's definitely possible. He actually ran the ball a few times too. He does what he needs to, right? And I thought after that pick that he threw, I was like, oh gosh, do we have another one of that? Who did he throw 4 picks against or whatever? I thought we were about to get another one of those because it was at a point of the game where I think they were down multiple scores, and so it was just like, oh, this game's gonna get ugly. And so, we'd like to think he's not real. He doesn't make many mistakes. He stays consistent. He obviously has a really good team around him, but he just does what he needs to do. And so he's been good to watch all season, and both sides of the ball keep him in it during the entire game. So it's just fun to watch.
Yeah, Nick, is this Purdy momentum real?
System quarterback, move on.
A lot of talent on that team. Nick might be right. But yeah, guys, I mean, now those Mahomes versus Purdy in the Super Bowl. Nick, Big 12 preview, back to the Big 12 days. I mean, what are your initial thoughts of this game?
Well, here's what I'll tell you. I hope it's not necessarily back to Pat's Big 12 days, because he would score 1,000 points and we would still lose. So hopefully it's not that way on next in 2 Sundays. It's good for the Big 12. It's good for Texas Tech. Until I see Pat lose, consistently, I just think he's going to win. Good for Brock Purdy. I don't believe he's the next great quarterback. I think he's serviceable. And when you put that much talent around someone who's serviceable, they're going to get the job done. He's better than Trent Dilfer, and he was serviceable. So, but he's not Pat. And I think at the end of the day, until Kansas City shows that they're not going to do it, I think they're going to do it. Oh, and also it's rigged, and the NFL wants Taylor to win. So
yeah, that's a fair point.
But I'm here for it. I like it. Swifty, baby.
Troy, the Niners open as a 2.5-point favorite. Is the right team favorite here?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I did want to touch on one thing. I thought it was pretty funny when the reporter asked Nick Bosa, who said something at halftime, and he like kind of pondered, and he's like, I actually said something at halftime. And so he took the credit for that, and I liked it, and it was a pretty basic answer. But with that being said, I think it probably is the right line. I don't know if it should be more points or not. But I think something that touches there is like Patrick Mahomes has been there a lot. And so I think that's why it's not like 3 or 4. And so I think the line makes sense. But I'm going to probably roll with Nick as well and go with my heart and say that the Chiefs are getting it together at the right time, and they'll probably pull it out in this instance. So we'll see if Shanahan can finally get it done, but I doubt it.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. The statistics and what computers our computers are different, but what Vegas's computers can analyze, yeah, San Francisco is a better team. San Francisco, I think 2.5, 3 points is exact amount. But again, the computers aren't analyzing Pat Mahomes and just what he brings to the table. Just, he's going to make it happen. So I would take Kansas City money line.
Yeah, I like what you said, Troy, because I'll be honest. I mean, I think if it's not Mahomes on the other side, this probably is a 4.5 spread, somewhere around there. It goes over the field goal. But yeah, just so many times at the end of games in these Super Bowls, they come down, they're defensive showdowns. Nobody can score. Who do you trust more to make a play, Purdy or Mahomes? And I think we all have the same answer, which is why we'll probably be all on the same side, right? But yeah, guys, next we'll get off of football. I know it's a big football weekend, but we'll go to our Red Raiders and the basketball team. They've been doing very, very good so far this season. Nick, I'll start with you. Kind of give me a mid-season review. How would you grade this team's performance so far?
I mean, you got to give them based off of expectation, A+, right? Anyone that wouldn't say A+ to this point is ridiculous. I mean, they have exceeded our expectations. And I know we're going to touch on this a little bit, but Coach McCaslin's had exceeded our expectations. He's getting the most out of these guys. Just great. Now, what would I give them just overall? No throw away expectations just as the team. I'd give them a B+, A-, maybe. And the 2 reasons behind that. And the Houston fans will be quick to tell you. We did get smashed by Houston, and great teams don't get smashed like that, so that makes me a little nervous. And then the last thing, we haven't dominated these good teams. We've got grit, and we've got heart, and we hustle, and we stay in the games, and we make free throws. Great teams do make free throws. But it's just felt like, these wins versus Oklahoma and Kansas State, they've just been, give me a little heart attack, right? And eventually you just hope this shoe doesn't fall on, or, the other shoe doesn't drop, right? So I'd say probably a B+, just overall, just because I need to see some domination. Let's see it.
Yeah, I mean, Troy, as you said, expectations, I mean, they do matter, those, Troy. So what would you grade this team?
Yeah, I mean, I'm right in line with Nick. Based off the expectations, it's definitely an A+ type season. I mean, nobody thought the Red Raiders were going to be number one in the conference 6 games in, and so based off that, you got to give them an A+. Probably thought we were going to be second or last, second to last in the rankings. So A+ top of that. I think they'll continue to win a few games. One thing that we haven't really had to deal with is being in foul trouble at all. And so that was something I was really nervous with in the beginning of the year with the size. But we have some guys that are like Nick brought up the tenacity, right? They're intense, they play good defense. And so that's something to be said without committing these fouls. And so they're a smart team. I think, they're smart, they're old, and so they're good decision makers. And I think that's why they've been able to stay in all the games. And to Nick's point, we're not blowing anybody out. We're not getting our tails kicked either, besides with the exception of the Houston game. And that one did feel different, right? They had big guards compared to Toussaint and Isaacs, and it just felt like we were a little overmatched. But the other thing they did was pressure us and took us out of our element. And so that was really the only game where, obviously we were a little worried, but they bounced back very well. And so I think that goes back to the coaching and the kind of team we have to say, hey, that was probably obviously our hardest match in the Big 12, but then bounce back and beat some good teams was really awesome. So I like the fight in this team, and I like how smart they are. Nick brought the free throws as well. So they're doing the things that you can control well.
Yeah, and you both touched on A+, right, to expectations. Troy, you just talked about the end. Give me a little more about the coaching. I mean, if they're outperforming their expectations, a lot of that has to start with McCasland, right?
Yeah, I had really high expectations for him coming from UNT. Father-in-law went to school there, and praised Grant McCasland and everything that he does. And so I knew the kind of guy he was. That he says that this player spoke very highly of Grant, and they all just got behind him. And those are the same things people are saying around the program about him now. And so I'm not surprised that it carried on. I didn't expect it to be this quick of a turnaround. And so that was really cool to see. But I think it goes to like when we were sitting here at the beginning of the year, we're like, oh gosh, we don't have X, Y, and Z. Like we don't have size. Do we have somebody that can get us buckets when they need to? We went 6 for 6 down the stretch in the Oklahoma game, right? And so those things, they're well composed and they have a good culture. And I think Grant kind of brings that calm readiness and prepares them the right way. And so I think those can be all attributed, especially with the group that we have, to what Grant's brought to this program.
Yeah, Nick, he's brought our love for the basketball team back real quick, right? Everyone's excited.
Yeah, you heard me on the recap podcast the other day. I'm in love, and there's nothing anyone can do about it. I was nervous about this team. You know me, blind allegiance to Texas Tech, but this basketball team did have me nervous, especially after all the hype over the last couple of years. It just didn't feel great, but man, I've turned around, and Grant McCasland's a big reason why. He just gets the guys to believe, and it's just fun to see people love to, and again, I said this last week, so I won't belabor it, but it's just fun to see people love to be Red Raiders. That wasn't the team last year. We can all tiptoe around it and dance around it, but those guys didn't want to be there. None of them did, for the most part. Obviously Pop did, right? And the few others that stayed, but there were some bad apples on the team last year. And so to just see this year's iteration of the team, everyone wants to be Red Raiders. Everyone loves being Red Raiders. And it shows on the court, and it shows in the statistics, and it shows in the wins. So keep it up. I love watching this team. And I'm going to tune in until the very end. So,
well, speaking of the very end, Nick, where do you expect this team to finish? Do they make the tournament? How far? What's your expectations down the stretch?
I think even if we get a little cold, Dylan, I think we make the tournament. I think we've done and again, as long as we don't lose the rest of our games, right? I think we've done enough to make the tournament. Now Where do I see us finishing again? Number 1 in the Big 12, baby. Let's go ahead and win the damn thing, right? So we'll see. I think that's where we're at. I'm not even going to say where do I actually see us. I see us winning the whole thing, Dylan. That's where I see us.
Troy, what's that tournament run look like?
I'd be happy with, I'll say the national championship, but I think if this team can win a game or two, that'd be awesome in his first season. So, I think relative to the games we have a stretch where we could potentially play 3 or 4 ranked teams in a row, and it's sandwiched in between UCF. So that's an interesting one. But we got Kansas, Iowa State, and TCU all back to back. Playing at Tech versus Kansas, and then going to Iowa State to play them. So obviously those will be tough games. And so you want a couple of those, but I could definitely see us getting to 23-ish wins. But excited to see what happens.
All right, guys. Well, what's up next?
I think Sweet Six. If we hit Sweet 16, anything after that is just going to be gravy.
Yeah, agreed.
And we'll win our first game. And I know I'm looking way far ahead. It's that second game that makes me nervous, because if we draw a team that's big, and I know way too early, right? Way too early, but I've seen like UConn, I'm scared of like big teams. I don't want to see a big team, with big guards. I've seen that already. I don't want to see it again.
They gotta be physical though too. I think that was the big thing with Houston. I don't know how many teams match that physicality that Houston does. They're kind of a different animal in that aspect.
Yeah. We'll see.
All right, guys. We got our final topic, kind of a little bit of a funny one that came out of nowhere, right? We have Spygate in the Big 12. A fun word we all love to hear, right? We had in Ames, Iowa, we had Kansas State complaining about maybe potentially someone listening in on their huddles or looking over their shoulder at the huddles from the stands. I'll start with you, Troy. Did Iowa State hire Connor Stallions, and are they putting them to good use?
Unfortunately, I didn't see any of the footage, but I'll go with yes. I got a feeling from my inside source that I won't name that they did hire him, and I'm here for any conspiracies you can throw out there. So yes.
And then Nick, how do you defend against this?
Well, I want to touch on that other the first topic, then ask me that question again, because I've got some ideas and theories. So first, I got a question for you, Dylan. Is Ames, Iowa, the hotbed for scandal?
I like where you're going here.
Because let me tell you something, huh? I'm going to tell you something, huh? You got gambling with the football program, and now you got ICU. You got spies in basketball. I just didn't think I'd see this from Ames, Iowa, Dylan. What do you think about that?
Midwest city, what else are you going to do other than gamble?
So, yeah, I just think it's kind of funny, right, that Ames, Iowa State, I mean, come on, guys. What are we doing here? How do you defend against it? I'd probably say full court press, followed by a 2-3 zone, shake things up. Maybe box and one, perhaps. You do all these different things, and I think that'll throw the scouts off, I think the real story here, though, not to bury the lead, is that, did you hear about the Kansas State assistant coach that yelled at the kid mopping the floors?
Classic.
I think he was like mopping. He was mopping under the basket, and I guess like the assistant coach from Kansas State called him an effing cheater, something along those lines. This kid's a student. He's just like mopping the floor, and Kansas State assistant coach is like, "Hey, man." So it really has gotten out of hand. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I don't even know if Kansas State's really said anything to the Big 12 about it. I think it's just been a lot of pointing, and coaches getting mad at each other. So who knows?
Is this even a big deal?
We'll see. Hey, I'll let you know when we play Iowa State.
Troy, does this matter to you? Is it much ado about nothing or what?
I like Nick's take, and if they beat us, yeah, I would say that they're
Yeah.
probably stealing
Yeah.
our signs.
Yeah.
But if we win, it's probably not a big deal. I will say I think basketball is a little too fast tempo to have signs and to react on them. Like, what, you're gonna go in a set and then your best player is just gonna go get a basket. Like, you don't need to sign for that. So.
Well, like, well, yeah. What are we doing here, right? So you're saying I see your sign. So you're gonna run the pick and roll high screen, and then I yell to my players, he's doing the high screen, which is pretty much what everyone runs anyway all the time. So like, what do we? I mean, again, if we lose to Iowa State, Dylan, this needs to be investigated by not just the NCAA, but I'm thinking the government in general.
I need to get in on this.
Yeah.
I do think that if we had Houston signs, she probably still would have put 29 on us.
Yeah.
Looking to Houston, I agree with that.
So they're still in signs.
That's everything for today. Thank you guys for running through the topics. And we appreciate all of you for listening. Please like and subscribe. Follow us at Tech and Tortillas across all socials. And that's Tech, the letter N, Tortillas. And guys, guns up, brothers. Have a great night.
Hey, guns up, brother.